Right now, you know what time it is. Not because you looked at a clock, because something deep inside you already knew. Your body has been tracking the hours since before you were born, wiring itself to a rhythm so ancient it predates the human species by hundreds of millions of years. But what if that wiring never existed? What if time, as a felt experience, simply was not part of your biology? This is not a question about clocks. Clocks are tools. This is a question about something far more fundamental. It is about whether the human animal, stripped of its internal sense of time, would still be recognizable as human at all. Start with what you lose first. You wake up. You have no idea whether it has been 4 hours since you fell asleep or 16. You have no hunger cues tied to morning, no cortisol spike pulling you toward alertness, no internal signal that says the day has begun. You simply exist in a formless present with no biological arrow pointing you anywhere. This is not a metaphor. This is what researchers like Till Roenneberg at Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich have spent decades studying. The human body runs on a circadian clock, a near 24-hour molecular oscillation embedded in nearly every cell of your body. Remove the felt sense of that clock, and you do not just lose track of time, you lose the architecture of a day, but it goes deeper than that. Time perception is not just about measuring hours, it is the cognitive engine that makes planning possible. Neuroscientist David Eagleman at Stanford has shown that the brain does not simply record time like a tape. It constructs it, backward, forward, compressed, expanded. The felt sense of time is how your brain creates the scaffolding of a self. You remember a past self. You anticipate a future self. You make decisions for someone who does not yet exist but who you feel right now continuous with. Without time perception, that scaffolding collapses. There is no past self pulling weight on your present choices. There is no future self waiting to receive the consequences. There is only now, and now, and now again. What does a civilization built by creatures like that actually look like? Think about the oldest human project, agriculture. It requires you to plant in one season for a harvest in another. It requires you to look at a bare field and feel viscerally the wheat that is not yet there. This is not logic. This is something more intimate. It is temporal imagination. The Neolithic Revolution, which began approximately 12,000 years ago, was not just a change in food production strategy. It was a transformation in how humans experience time. Researchers like Thomas Suddendorf at the University of Queensland have argued that mental time travel, the capacity to project yourself mentally into the past and future, is one of the defining cognitive features of the human species. Without a lived sense of time, that capacity does not just weaken, it vanishes. No agriculture, no stored surplus, no cities. No cities means no division of labor. No division of labor means no specialization. No specialization means no writing. No writing means no accumulated knowledge across generations. Every generation starts from zero. Every discovery dies with its discoverer. The species does not go extinct, but it stops compounding. It stops building on itself. It remains indefinitely at the level of a creature that can solve problems only in the present tense. You would still have language. Language does not require time perception, but you would not have narrative. Narrative is what happens when language meets memory, meets anticipation. Stories are built from the past, told in the present for a future listener. Without time as a felt experience, stories flatten into pure description. There is no tension, there is no consequence. There is no before and after, just the perpetual surface of what is. Think about what you do every single day. You set an alarm because you know the morning will come. You make an appointment because you trust that tomorrow exists and that you will be there for it. You feel guilt about something you did last week because you carry that moment with you, still felt, still present, even though it is gone. You feel anticipation for a vacation 3 months away, and that anticipation shapes your mood today. You save money for a retirement that is decades distant because you can feel, faintly but really, the weight of that future self. None of this is rational calculation. All of it is temporal sensation. It is time as something you live inside, not something you observe from outside. Strip that away, and what you have left is something that philosophers call presentism, but in a biological rather than philosophical sense. You do not reject the past or future. You simply cannot feel them, and anything you cannot feel, you cannot act toward. Relationships change entirely. Love, as humans experience it, is saturated with time. You love someone across years, you carry the memory of who they were, and project the hope of who they will become. The commitment that makes deep relationships possible is not a feeling you have right now. It is a promise you make to your future self on behalf of your present self for another person who will continue to exist in a future neither of you has reached yet. Without time perception, commitment is structurally impossible, not immoral, not difficult, impossible. You cannot commit to something you cannot feel the weight of. There would still be attachment, warmth, proximity preference, but not loyalty across time, not sacrifice for a future together, not grief for a lost past. The emotional texture of human love, that specific ache of it, is inseparable from duration. And then there is mortality. Right now, somewhere in your awareness, you know you are going to die. You do not think about it constantly, but it shapes everything. The urgency you sometimes feel to do something that matters. The way certain sunsets hit differently as you age. The reason you hug your children a little harder, some evenings for no reason you can name. This is time perception colliding with mortality. It produces meaning. It produces art. Blaise Pascal wrote in the 17th century that all of humanity's problems stem from the inability to sit quietly in a room alone. What he was really describing was the inability to tolerate pure presentness, the mind's compulsive flight into past and future as a way of constructing a life that feels like more than just a sequence of moments. Without time perception, death loses its sting. Not because life becomes more peaceful, but because the story of a life, which requires a beginning, middle, and approaching end, simply does not form. You do not fear death. You also do not fear wasting your life. You also do not create anything to outlast you. The monuments, the books, the children raised with values, the careers built with purpose, all of it is downstream of the felt reality that time is passing and that you have a finite amount of it. Here is what makes this strange. The sense of time that shapes everything you do, every ambition, every fear, every plan, every regret, is not in the clocks on your wall. It is not in the calendar on your phone. It is in the firing of neurons, in the oscillation of proteins in your cells, in the chemical rhythm of cortisol and melatonin, and a dozen other molecules that have been keeping biological time since before animals had brains. The circadian system, researchers now understand, is over 700 million years old. It predates eyes. It predates movement. It is older than the capacity to perceive the world at all. You did not learn to feel time. You were born already keeping it. And here is the reframe you carry with you after this. Every deadline that stresses you, every memory that aches, every hope that pulls you forward, every moment of urgency you feel in your chest when you think about how short life is, that is not suffering caused by your sense of time. That is your sense of time doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is a 700 million year old system telling you that the present moment matters, that what you do now ripples forward, that you are not just here but here and then gone, and that the difference between those two things is everything. Right now you know what time it is, and now you understand what it would mean if you did not.